But it's your North London rivals, Tottenham, on whom we focus our attention right now, because Tottenham squeezed past Burnley after VAR intervention, which could have big ramifications on the top four and relegations. You know where I'm going with this, Martin. When it comes to the decision for the crucial penalty against Burnley's Ashley Barnes, is it impossible to make the handball law any less controversial than it appears to be right now? Let me just put some meat in the bones of this. Towards the end of the first half, Harry Kane missed a big opportunity from 10 yards out, but VAR intervened looking back at a previous passage of play. And Barnes' arm had been outstretched at a right angle and had blocked a flick by Sanchez. The incident went unnoticed in real time. Barnes had not been jumping for the ball and had no reason to have his arm in that position. Penalty kick, Tottenham. Burnley's interim boss, Mike Jackson, had his say on that very moment.
You can't stand by your arms by your side when you're in an 18-yard box and you're defending a set play. You can't do that. Your arms and the way your body moves, it's in your balance. You can't. That's just how you play football. That's just what happens in an 18-yard box. You're competing against each other. People are trying to push you off. Then you have to move, and so you might be off balance. And if you go off balance, what does usually happen? Your arm usually comes up. Listen, we're disappointed with the decision, but it's done now.
It is done now, but it could cost Burnley. Martin, where do you stand on this? This arm in a unnatural position. Have you got sympathy for Barnes in the first place?
Yeah, I have, and it's one of those where I really dearly would like the officials, the VAR, to really look at it. And someone who's played the game, I think if I was still playing, Jim, I think there's little ways, little nuances, little ways you could gain an advantage. And I think one of those is if I was to push somebody in the box and then wait for the actual push that comes back. Now, when you push someone over, and I think Ashley Barnes is a really physical player, contact player, he's being pushed earlier in the challenge. Sanchez put two arms on him, wrestles him with two arms, and he's trying to rebalance, and out comes the arm. We saw this last week with Kamara as well for Watford against Crystal Palace. And all they do in VAR is they just look, did it hit the arm? Yes, that's objective. It hit the arm. The arm's in the air. Why is it in the air? They don't go back and look why it's in the air. Now, this incident with Spurs, and people can say, oh, you're an Arsenal man who's complaining about Spurs. No, actually, look, great, you've profited from it, but going forward, VAR needs to understand what's happened in the lead up to that. Now, the ball comes off of Sanchez's shin. Jim, if we're going up for a ball and my arm's in the air and it comes off your shin, it could almost go out the ground. What chance have I got? It hasn't come off his foot. How much can I allow for that? And it's hit him on the arm. Nobody's appealed. It really is a really unusual penalty, and VAR jumps in, and I don't think that's what VAR is there for. I don't think that's the protocol of VAR. It has to be clear and obvious, and that certainly wasn't. And I didn't see a single player. Now, obviously, Spurs then profit from that, and then that has implications going forward. So and Burnley would have had a valuable point. Yeah. I thought they did exceptionally well in the game.
Well, exactly. But you're saying we need someone, an ex-player type.
Well, they won't be an ex-player because they simply they don't want us anywhere near the game, do they? So it won't be an ex-player. But it needs to be somebody in there that understands
I think they do.
What's creating the contact.
But what Martin's saying isn't true, you see, because IFAB make the laws of the game, and IFAB consult their technical panels, which consist of people like Luis Figo and Arsene Wenger and people of that nature. And so when you develop the rules...
Are they in the VAR booth, though, in the moment when decisions are being made?
But we're talking about two different things.
Why can't we just run it through and say, can the player look at it and say, is there a reason why that might not... He might have his arm in the air?
We're talking about the laws of the game and the interpretation of them. There's two things. There's objectivity and there's subjectivity. Right now, we've got a very simple rule. You handball the ball at a certain position, irrespective of it's natural or not.
Objective,
Objective is penalty. You could then make the argument that subjectively, VAR intervenes and says, consider the circumstances. Consider what you would say as a player, which is the circumstances that created the situation where that player's arm was put in the way of a ball, and were they legitimate reasons for giving a penalty?
Why did it happen?
Currently what we've got is objectivity, which is hits the arm, penalty. That's the rule. Takes away any debate about whether or not it's an unpragmatic, unnuanced decision. But when you get into nuance and start debating if and or what, then you move into the area of subjectivity. And then referees on the pitch, one referee will give it, another referee won't. So then you're in a territory of then going behind the scenes and saying, look at the rule itself. Is the law an ass, right? And then we talk about you talking about you need more football people involved. You've got them. You've got football people
Yeah, but I
involved
do
that made
think
these rules in the first place,
do
which is
that.
Figo and previously Varco van Basten and now Arsene
but
Wenger and Boban and people
Simon,
that have played
you
the
know
game.
I'm always going to fight for the player involvement. You know that.
And that's right to do.
And I think in the actual VAR
As long as it
room, when they're up there, they just somebody give us a. Do you think is there any reason? Yeah, he's pulled him. Look, he's tugged him. Goodness, we missed that. Look at that, it's come off his shin. Do you think he can mean that when it comes off his shin?
So you
that it's
want a
gonna hit
committee?
Yeah.
How does the player allow for that and make an adjustment? It's coming off his shin.
So
It
you
just
want a
hits him on
committee
the arm.
you want a committee room
No,
that's
it's
going to
got
have a
I
VAR
want people
decision.
who can make decisions at high speed.
Is there a queue? Just because I'd love to see it.
No, this is the question.
Is there a queue of ex-footballers that are on £100,000 a week wanting to? Because what your argument would be next is right. This is what will happen next. Not enough elite footballers in there, right? Because when you get all the League 1, League 2 players that have not made a lot of money out of football that want to go into different sections of sport and stay in there, they'll go in there, and you'll turn around and say next, well, hang on a second, it's one thing playing League 1 football.
Let's not
when
make
you play the elite football.
let's not make
You see,
this.
the fact of the matter is this: a great student of the game is our own Sam Matterface, and Sam got in touch with me over the weekend and said, in this instance, the law is the issue, not VAR.
Exactly.
And the penalty had to be given under the law.
No,
Exactly.
no, it didn't, Jim.
The law is so
It didn't because
it did.
It did, Martin.
It did. Yeah, but the law
Because the
was
law is so
The law is an ass.
prescriptive.
But if you go into detail as to why something happened, and you have the necessary people there to see that,
but
then
that's
you wouldn't
not
have
the
given.
law.
You would not have given that penalty.
But that's
so
not the law.
The arm is
But
in the
that's
air.
not the law.
But if he's being fouled to make the arm come up, then there has to be looked at, and it has to go one step further back. VAR. That's all it needed to do.
But the
one
law
step
isn't.
further
But
back.
the law isn't nuanced.
It's interesting.
You didn't. Hang on. You didn't rob someone's house because you had some social circumstances in the background, right? You do something, and the outcome is if the ball hits someone's arm, under the laws that have been established by football people included,
It is a penalty.
It's a penalty. Now, what we should be looking for is some element of subjectivity in VAR because that's the
right.
belt and braces. You should, and you're right. I agree with you. But then it becomes a situation where how have you got a committee in a room? You've got a referee. He's got to defer to the player.
That's how you make decisions.
Not
So
in real time. You do. They consider decisions.
But
You're
I want-
asking for
I
a
want
management
people-
process that takes too
Look,
long.
Everyone makes mistakes. Anthony Taylor, one of our top referees,
Yep.
made a blatant mistake at the weekend.
But this there wasn't a
There was a
mistake.
penalty given away against Dawson eventually. It's right in front of him. He missed it. If VAR comes in and corrects it,
Yes.
brilliant. In this situation, I'm sorry, but VAR should not be getting involved in that. Harry Kane
But the
misses a
referee missed
glaring
that.
opportunity, and all of a sudden we come back
But you're
to something.
comparing two different things. The referee
I'm
missed the
comparing
situation.
VAR's involvement in two goals, and
But
two very
you're
important
talking
goals
about
at the
application
weekend.
of the law. The law is a handball, and no matter how we skin this particular cat, it comes back to the same conclusion. The law is an ass.
Yeah.
But it always has to be subjective, really, as an element of that when it comes to a penalty.
But then you're in a territory of inconsistent refereeing because if you make it subjective, then one referee's not of the same standard as another. One referee, because that's otherwise you would never have excellence.
It can be subjective for VAR, can't it? It's got the time to apply that.
Well, then you've
referee
got
hasn't.
Okay, then you've got subjectivity in the VAR boardroom where you've got one good VAR operative and one that's not so good.
Well,
what do you
maybe,
do then?
maybe that's what we're getting, and maybe that's
And
where
that
we
is
need
what
to
we're
improve.
getting. But you're never going to. That's the
See,
weakest
Martin,
link of the chain, isn't
in
it?
In the interest of absolute clarity, it's down to the law. Is this the law? Yes, it is.
Jim, I would
Yes.
suggest it's not enough people in the VAR box. I can't think that they're making the right decisions. What is wrong with them? They step back and in the moment take
But
a look at
it
it.
doesn't matter if you've got 10 people in there, if you've got 100
There's
people
foul
in there.
on Kamara.
If
The
they'll
foul on-
apply the law in the same
foul
way.
on Kamara
That's right.
and Watford lose a left back then suspended was ridiculous.
But isn't
he heads the ball against his arm because he's just
But
pushed
is
his
there an
opponent.
argument about definicy? Is that a word? Being definite? About being definite. So you know where you stand, right? The bottom line is that if
We
the ball
don't though, do we?
But we do. If it hits your arm in the penalty area, it's going to be a penalty.
They always
We
start
know
kicking
that.
the ball at your arms.
We know that, but we now know it when we look at that and say, but that's flawed. That don't work. But so on one hand, people say, well, I don't know where I stand. Hang on. So how am I supposed to know if you don't know? Well, everyone knows, but we're now disagreeing with the principle of what they know.
And the problem is, Martin, the law is the law, and the law was changed at the start of the season. So this is what we've ended up
By
with.
football people.
Incidentally, I've got definicy in my right ear because you're sitting so close to me. But Martin, the law is the law is the law, and basically
It's always about interpretation of law, Jim, isn't it? So look, we know that if the ball hits your arm, yeah, that's law, it's a penalty. But why is the arm in the air? Tell me why that arm was in the air, Ashley Barnes. Because he's being fouled.
I don't know. Maybe Ed wins.
He's being
The bottom
fouled.
line is that it's not. If you're jaywalking, someone can give you a reason why they're doing it, but it doesn't alter the fact that they're jaywalking and they get
But the
consequence for it.
guy's a referee. Sure, he's played the game and he knows when someone tussles with him that you're going to have to rebalance.
But
Your
Martin,
body, your arms come up.
There's no escaping here, mate. What it does give is a definite outcome. Because it's the law.
But that's not right,
the law
Jim.
is so
If it's the wrong
prescriptive.
outcome, then that's not fairness. VAR is there to make it fair. So VAR is not working in this situation.
It's not doing all it could do. You're right.
And I would go with that as well, Martin. And I do feel for Barnes.
Well, that
in this,
makes
and
a
I feel
change for you to
Burnley.
go with anything I'm saying, but
It makes
never
a
mind.
change
That's
for you to say
great.
something that we
I
can
knew
agree
if I
with.
sit here long enough, you would.
Well, if you say something we can agree with, we will, won't we?
Martin, I'll give you a kiss and a cuddle during this break. It's 12:16.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.